Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is now the 7th film in the Mission Impossible franchise. This is Chris McQuarrie's 3rd Mission Impossible film he has directed ever since Rogue Nation back in 2015. As for the returning cast in this movie, you got Tom Cruise as the lead, as well as Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Rebecca Ferguson, as well as new additions to the cast such as Haley Atwell, Isa Morales, and Pom Klementieff. The story in Dead Reckoning is Ethan Hunt, as always played by Tom Cruise, and his IMF team must retrieve a dangerous weapon before it gets into the wrong hands. Now, before we get into Dead Reckoning, I would like to give you my thoughts on the Mission Impossible movies. Let's start with the first Mission Impossible back in 1996. Despite it having a convoluted story, this was still a good start to the franchise that showed how much Tom Cruise is a terrific action star with him doing his own stunts, and Brian De Palma did a great job directing. And then we got Mission Impossible 2 back in 2000. This is definitely the worst film in the Mission Impossible franchise. It just proves in the subsequent sequels with the tones they stick with. John Woo with his over-the-top action style just did not work for Mission Impossible. With the explosions, slow motion, and trying to make Ethan Hunt a James Bond playboy character, never worked for me. And it just had silly moments during the action too. And it was trying to be those action movies in like the late 90s and early 2000s, making it a little dated. However, 6 years later, we got Mission Impossible 3 back in 2006. And J.J. Abrams did an excellent job at picking things up for the franchise with this film, delivering thrilling action scenes and still the best villain of the series played by the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. And the franchise kept going. In 2011, we got Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Now that was my favorite Mission Impossible film until Fallout. That took the strengths of 3 and soared it to awesomeness. I love the team dynamic with great performances, the urgency and tension of the film. And Brad Bird did an incredible job for his first foray into live action after a background with animation such as The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, and Ratatouille. And the Burj Khalifa sequence is still one of the most jaw-dropping action scenes I've ever seen in my life. I will never forget first seeing this movie in theaters back in 2011, and during that action scene, I was sitting at the front row just witnessing an incredible action scene in awe, and I was gripping to the armrest, my palms were sweating knowing that Tom Cruise actually did that stunt. And this movie still remains one of my favorite action movies of the 2010s decade. And in 2015, we got Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, a great 5th installment that continued the strengths of 4. Chris McQuarrie did a terrific job directing his first Mission Impossible film, and Rebecca Ferguson was an amazing new addition to the cast, and that is definitely one of the best in the franchise. And now in 2018, we get to Mission Impossible Fallout, the best Mission Impossible film, hands down. Top-notch performances from Cruise and everyone. Chris McQuarrie still shows that he's a fantastic and reliable action filmmaker for this franchise. Henry Cavill is an amazing villain and one of the best in the series. Breathtaking action scenes with variety and flawless action filmmaking. From the Halo jump, the bathroom fight scene was awesome. Motorcycle chase, the rooftop chase, especially that incredible helicopter chase followed by the great cliff fight. And this is just an action movie I can't praise enough. It's my second favorite film of 2018 behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as well as my second favorite action film of the 2010s decade behind Mad Max Fury Road. I've been a big fan of the Mission Impossible franchise ever since 3 found its footing and 4 takes it to the next level and beyond. And I was, of course, highly anticipating this newest installment. From the first 4 Mission Impossible movies, as much as I like seeing them rotate different directors for each film, their different styles and their approach to action filmmaking, and I'm okay with Chris McQuarrie still on board as director ever since 5 to now. Just how much he's been keeping this franchise consistent with its strength. And I was excited to see Cruise and a returning cast back, as well as new additions joining. And I was surprised to hear that this was going to be a part 1 story, making me very intrigued to see what they had in store. And the teaser trailer that was released a year early in front of Top Gun Maverick was amazing, and the second trailer was as equally amazing. And I was super excited to see another thrilling Tom Cruise action movie sequel after Top Gun Maverick. And that movie dominated the box office, grossing more than $700 million domestically, as well as $1 billion worldwide. Critics and audiences loving it and being successful at award season, getting nominated for Best Picture and winning Best Sound Design. This was very high in my most anticipated movies of the summer and year, and I was so pumped to see it, and I saw Dead Reckoning opening day, and was this new Mission Impossible worth the wait, or was it disappointing? I can confirm this new Mission Impossible did not disappoint me one bit. This movie freaking rules. This was such an amazing action continuation and worth the 5-year wait after Fallout. Although I do prefer Fallout, but this, I think it's one of the best in the series yet. Let's start this review with the pros. First, the performances from everyone are top notch. This continues to solidify why Tom Cruise is my favorite action star working today. I've always admired his work ethics and wanting to deliver incredible action, relying on doing his own stunts practically, and always prepared for what death-defying stunt he has in mind and wants to do. And he has not lost that touch one bit, maintaining his charisma, energy, dedication, and commitment to action and this franchise. And it still shows his great working relationship with Christopher McQuarrie ever since Jack Reacher back in 2012. While he still does a fantastic job excelling in the action scenes and doing his own stunt work. And still amazed just the stunts he's able to do at 60 years old. It's just unbelievable. I love that Fallout and Dead Reckoning continue to flesh out Ethan Hunt's character and make him more than just a super cool spy who can do all these amazing stunts. And Cruise sells the serious scenes equally as the action scenes. And I believe that is a true testament to Tom Cruise not only as an action star but as an actor in general. And the supporting cast is all great as well, none of them disappoint. Simon Pegg is hilarious and entertaining as always. Ving Rhames back as Luther, he's great as always. Rebecca Ferguson is still terrific in these Mission Impossible movies. She's still amazing in the action scenes. Vanessa Kirby returning as the White Widow, she's great as well. And now let's talk about the new additions to the cast. They're fantastic. Admittedly, this franchise doesn't have the most memorable villains. Aside from Philip Seymour Hoffman in the 3rd movie and Henry Cavill in the 6th movie, and 5 was a good villain. And we actually do have strong villains here, starting with Gabriel, played by Isa Morales. He makes for a very strong antagonist. From his intelligence, combat, makes for a challenging villain for Ethan and tying into his past. He makes for a great villain and definitely one of the best ones in the franchise. In a second new addition, we have Palm Clementine as a secondary villain here. And I love her as Mantis in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies with Guardians of the Galaxy. She's always hilarious and likable as the character. What a very interesting change of pace, going from a lovable comic relief character to a deadly and agile villain here. She did a fantastic job in the action scenes, from a car chase and her combat scenes. She killed it. As well as selling her performance with few lines of dialogue and just her facial expressions. And speaking of actresses in the MCU, my favorite new addition in Dead Reckoning would definitely be Haley Atwell as Grace. She's terrific here. She's charming, has a good backstory, and has great back and forth banter between her and Ethan with her skills as a thief, and does a very impressive job in the action scenes. Atwell was such a great new addition, and I can't wait to see her return in Dead Reckoning Part 2. I think this justifies Christopher McQuarrie as one of the best action filmmakers working today. With 5, 6, and 7, his direction here is stellar. He does a phenomenal job staging and crafting greatly executed action set pieces for the audience to admire. They're very well shot action scenes that you can see what's going on, no shaky cam at all, which is great. From the flowing editing, camera work, and amazing cinematography, great sound design, and I also want to give credit to Lauren Ball's amazing score as well that contributes to the tension of the film. And relying on awesome practical locations and effects and using CGI when necessary, great blend of both. And I also love how he uses Dutch angles for intense moments of the film. Looking back to the first film, how Brian De Palma used those Dutch angles, and even a returning character from the first movie with Eugene here. But I don't think he was trying to copy Brian De Palma too much and trying to craft a riveting spy espionage sequel, and still sticking with his own strengths for the franchise. And now we get to what you're coming for this movie for, the action scenes. They are all marvelous, and I just can't praise them to no end. All from how exhilarating they are and how phenomenal at their execution they are. Let's get to the highlights. There was a brilliant car chase in Rome where Ethan Hunt and Grace are handcuffed to each other. Just the practical effects in that action scene were awesome. It was very exciting. And also did a great job of balancing tension, excitement, and humor at the same time. And one of my favorite action scenes in this movie was an amazing combat fight in a narrow alleyway. And that action scene happening at the same time, another fight scene on a bridge. They were both gripping and white-knuckled. From the fight choreography, tension, and brutality, and the editing between those fight scenes had me on the edge of my seat. And what you've seen in the trailers, Tom Cruise driving a motorcycle off a cliff. jaw-dropping. That's all I could say, just jaw-dropping. And I seen the behind-the-scenes video of how they did that stunt with a ramp. And just watching that video and having seen the movie, it's just marvelous at how they pull that off, thanks to Chris McQuarrie, Tom Cruise, and the rest of the cast. And not only that scene in the third act, there's a train scene, and about that train scene, it just topped the train scene from the first Mission Impossible. The entire climax of this movie is worth the price of admission alone. There were multiple moments during the climax of this movie where my jaw dropped and I was on the edge of my seat. And near the end of that action scene, after a bridge exploded and each locomotive at the front was going down and detaching, and Ethan and Grace are hanging on, that entire action scene was just anxiety-inducing and just so intense. Had my heart pounding of, oh my god, this is insane, and just seeing how many things are dodging and just trying to hang on. Oh my god, that was amazing. Amidst all the glorious action scenes, I found the story very engaging at how intense this mission is, and probably Ethan Hunt's most intense mission, I think. And as this film progresses, it just builds and builds tension, even in the slower moments when there's no action, just characters talking. I'm invested because I love these characters so much. As well as focusing on Ethan's choices and what's at stake here, it was all very interesting to see at the same time. And I love how this film equally balances a riveting story plus giving you exciting action set pieces as well. As for issues or nitpicks, I'd say one minor complaint I do have that could diminish on a second viewing depending was that it does have minor pacing issues at the beginning of the film with a few exposition scenes. But as soon as the story gets going and when we get to action scenes such as the airport scene and then later on that car chase scene in Rome, this movie just kicks into high gear. And this movie is 2 hours and 43 minutes long, the longest film in the franchise. And another plus, this movie was such a thrill ride, I didn't even mind the 2 hour and 40 minute runtime. In conclusion, while there are most action franchises that either get stale or run out of gas, this and John Wick are neither of those franchises that do and keep things consistent. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 absolutely delivers at being a thrilling and exhilarating action spectacle. With an intense and riveting story, great performances from the cast, and magnificent and jaw-dropping action set pieces that will leave you breathless. I highly recommend this movie if you're a huge fan of the Mission Impossible franchise, or you just adore amazing action filmmaking, go see this movie. Or if you're not a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise or have seen a few of the movies, I still think this film is an absolute must-see in theaters, definitely. Without spoiling anything about the ending since this movie just came out, and the ending of this movie with this being a part 1 story was a little different than what I expected it to be, but it still got me excited for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, and all I can say is, I want Dead Reckoning Part 2 immediately. And especially a month after Spider-Verse's cliffhanger ending with Across the Spider-Verse, and depending if Beyond the Spider-Verse might get delayed to 2025, just in case that happens, Beyond the Spider-Verse is still number 1, but if the delay happens, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 is my most anticipated film next year. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 4.5 stars out of 5, an A. If you are looking for an exciting blockbuster to go see at the movies this weekend, definitely go see it. And definitely go see it a week before Oppenheimer and Barbie, or Barbenheimer if you want to call it that. And if you want to ask me about July 21st that weekend, I do want to see Oppenheimer first. I'm pumped for that movie, but I do want to see Barbie as well, and I hope both films are great. And definitely go see it on the biggest screen you can, ASAP. This is so far my second favorite film of the summer, behind Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as well as tied with John Wick Chapter 4 for my favorite film of 2023 and my favorite action film of the year so far. Later on in the year, I do want to rewatch both this and Dead Reckoning Part 1 to decide which one I love more, but regardless, both are fantastic action movies in their own merits. And now, where would I rank Dead Reckoning Part 1 in my Mission Impossible ranking? Thinking about now, I would put this film at number 2, tied with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I think both films have equally phenomenal action scenes, but I would probably give the edge to Dead Reckoning Part 1 due to its stronger villain. So that's where I'm going to rank Dead Reckoning for now, and I am very excited to see this movie again in theaters to confirm that. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? If you've seen it, do you agree? Disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to seeing the film or not? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.